trade tensions between the U.S. and China have surfaced again, with President Trump calling China's leader to tell him the growing deficit is not sustainable. Joining us now from Washington is Bloomberg editor Joe Sobcyzk. Joe, good to see you. So the president expressing that the White House is disappointed that the U.S. trade deficit continues to grow with China. Is that a warning sign to Beijing of some type of imminent action?
Well, the president is poised to decide on steel tariffs, and that would affect China and be directed mostly at China after getting a final report from the Commerce Department. This has been a source of friction for some time, but the U.S. has been treading rather lightly because they are using China and need China part of the negotiations with North Korea. This may have been just a bit of a warning to President Xi that this remains an irritant in the relationship. Whether or not Trump goes through with some actions, he has pulled back in the past, but this is a long-time issue for him, at least since the campaign.
Yeah, the president has less than 90 days to make that decision now, Joe. But is making the case for steel tariffs, is that possibly easier for the Trump administration than calling China a currency manipulator?
Well, it may well be, and it affects more directly some U.S. industries, and it can be couched in somewhat broader terms, and it goes to the heart of Trump's plans to restore American manufacturing and protect American businesses, perhaps at least more visibly to the public than perhaps currency manipulation might be.
All right, Joe, let's talk about this issue at hand in Washington. Are we or are we not going to see the government shut down by this weekend?
Well, it is still a very close thing whether that is going to happen. Tonight, the Republican leadership is meeting in the House with their members to present a plan for what's called a clean continuing resolution, which would keep the government open for another few weeks until February 16th. They'll add a few other things in there, some delays of Obamacare taxes, which suggests that they're planning to go ahead, at least in the House, without any Democratic votes. But they are going to need some Democratic votes in the Senate, where the majority for the Republicans is much thinner. They're counting on, there are 10 Democrats who are up for re-election in November, who are in states that Trump won. One of them, Joe Manchin, today has said that he will vote to keep the government open and vote for the stopgap spending.
Right.
Several others have suggested that they might as well. So it will be a big question whether the Senate Democratic leadership, Chuck Schumer, decides to make a stand on this.
So, Joe, I mean, in past shutdowns, though, I mean, think about the one in 2013, it's usually been the Republicans who were to blame. Is it correct to say that if we do have a shutdown this time around, it is going to be the Democrats to blame? They're going to lose out in terms of the public eye?
Well, that's the big risk that they face. This is an election year. However, it has gone to the blame has shifted to the Republicans in past years, but Republicans will have a very strong case to make that it was the Democrats holding this up. Now, that may well play to the Democratic base because they're holding it up for an issue, in this case, the immigration policy, that is very near and dear to their hearts. But nonetheless, it is not going to be a great thing to have on your resume.